I don't think that the psychedelic drugs are drugs at all in the sense they don't cure any physical illness. They're not drugs like heroin, they're not drugs even like alcohol. They're instruments which expand consciousness, they speed up the mind. Chemicals are the keys which open up and speed up, expand the mind.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our new season here at Wild Wild Podcast. I've just popped the sugar cube under my tongue, so I'm ready to go.
Mine is not a sugar cube. It's just a piece of construction paper with an odd liquid that's been dried on it. So I guess we're in the same position.
Well, I'm glad you got that in the post, all right.
Yes.
So my name is Adrian Smith, and we've been doing Wild Wild Podcast now for about 3 years. Me and my slightly high co-host, Rod Barnett.
Only high on caffeine, sir, I promise.
Yeah, this will be the first podcast that you can see in color.
It's swirling color.
Yeah, here we go. So I made a new podcast theme and everything. I'm quite proud of it. I sampled Timothy Leary just to really get us in the mood. Mm-hmm. So I hope people like that. Yeah, so before the drugs fully kick in, maybe, Rod, do you want to let us know how your October was?
My October was a blast, as always. I always have a number of events, actually fewer public events this time around. I spent a fair amount of my weekend time in the middle part of the month helping with a friend's Halloween decorations. I have a group of friends who for years have traded off. One year they'll have a large Halloween party at one friend's house, and the following year at a different friend's house, so that they're kind of trading off the decoration the decorating and the time-consuming portion of that aspect of setting a large Halloween party in motion. And so this year I spent 2 or 3 Saturdays, I lost track, to be honest, helping set up the decorations around a friend's house in preparation for the Halloween party that was the last Saturday of the month. And that's a lot of fake tombstones and 12-foot tall scythe-wielding scarecrows and giant webs with giant spiders. It's a whole to-do.
Did you post any photos of this anywhere where people could see it? On your social media?
I have not posted photos. I probably should have. I've been around doing this for so long that I often forget that other people would be more amused than I, because when you're out there sweating in the hot sun on an October afternoon constructing something, it's not something that you find all that amazing. But I really, what I'll do is I'll track down photos and try to put them up. I may even just shuffle them off to you so that you can do something with them as well, because like I say, when you're in the middle of it, it's difficult to know which ones are the more impressive looking. I mean, the 12-foot tall things, they're impressive, but you need something for scale. So, but that was a large part of weekends. Lots of movie watching as well, as you would expect from a movie geek such as myself. But a good October was had by all, and
very good.
So it's a fun time, to say the least.
And what was your Halloween night viewing? Did you watch a movie?
Halloween night viewing actually got interrupted because I ended up going to a friend's house for a Halloween gathering that didn't involve movies actually involved storytelling. The oral tradition continued as you would expect. Not that I participated. Normally, I would bring a story to those events to read out to the assembled folk. But there were more than enough offerings on tap, and so this year I did not. I just partook and enjoyed, and so that day, the most I can confess to doing is starting a film that I didn't finish until the next day because I got home too late to really feel like battling my way through the rest of it. There's an Al Adamson film called Frankenstein versus Dracula that I have I saw years and years ago and despised, and being the sick puppy that I am, I did recently procure for an extremely low price. It was given to me, a Blu-ray of said film, and I decided it was time to finally bite the bullet and watch it as a sober adult and decide whether or not it was a good or a bad film. Little hint, it's not a good film. I've yet to meet the Al Adamson film yet that I would put into the positive category, and this film is no different. But it does have end of career performances from a few favorite actors like Lon Chaney, J. Carrol Naish, who really is the only actor who escapes the film with any dignity intact. It's not a good film, but it is an interesting film, and I'm glad that I've now seen it, can cross it off my list, and hopefully probably never watch it again. But so I would call that my sign-off film for October, and I'll just divert people's attention to the other things that I watched, which were episodes of Night Gallery and the original Outer Limits. You're better off there, folks.
Cool. Yeah. So in terms of Halloween decorations, all I basically did, I did do some pumpkins, but I got hold of a projector. I don't have my own projector. So I borrowed a projector and I'd edited together clips from YouTube of basically Halloween projection stuff. So stuff that's on a black background, like dancing skeletons and ghosts and stuff. And then I just projected it onto the net curtain on my front window. So from the outside, it looks like there's skeletons dancing around in my window. And that just impressed everybody that walked past. So yeah. I had lots of trick-or-treaters, and they were all like, wow, because, my decorations were moving in the window. So it was very impressive for basically quite an easy setup.
Cool. Sounds good. Anything effective is good.
Yeah, it was quite funny. But so for my Halloween evening, I had organised a screening at one of my local cinemas where I used to do, pre-COVID, I did a thing every month, which under the name The Cult Film Club. And then it's kind of been a bit sporadic since COVID. A couple of years ago, I was doing monthly screenings at a different cinema over in Hastings. And I've done some Halloween screenings at this one in Eastbourne. So then this week I did a screening of the Blair Witch Project, and that was fun. I haven't seen that. Well, I haven't seen it since I saw it 25 years ago, and it's about to get a new restoration release. Unfortunately, we couldn't get hold of the new restoration for the screening, but it's kind of hard to know how good they can make a new restoration when half of it was just shot on like DV tapes or I don't know what they were, high 8 maybe, and half of it on shaky 16mm. But anyway, so we did a screening of that, and I had had prizes and a quiz, and so that was good fun. I do like doing these public events. I mean, obviously, because I've started a podcast, I clearly like just talking about films to anyone who'll listen. So getting to introduce films in public is always fun. But
True.
Yeah. Anyway, that's basically my Halloween. And have you'd had your Halloween episode come out, which was Reanimator, right, on the Bloody Pit?
Yes. Very happy about that.
Yeah, and you also did another 40s Universal horror, didn't you?
Oh, The Mummy's Ghost, yeah.
Yes.
The ongoing 1940s Universal series of podcasts that both Troy and I fear will never end. But, you know.
And I finally watched a film that's been a massive gap in my Universal Horrors films, which I'd never seen, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Can you believe it?
Wow.
I know. So I finally watched that last week, and it was actually, it's pretty good. I don't know if anyone else has ever heard of that little film, but
that little known film, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Yeah, it was actually pretty well thought of. I think there were a couple of sequels. Oh, and strangely enough, the Al Adamson film I was talking to you about ridiculously reuses that stinger piece of music in their soundtrack. It's just unforgettable and unforgivable.
Yeah, so that's been fun. And now it's November, and basically I just feel like it's just a clear run to Christmas from here on in. Anyway, so we've got this mini season, 3 films. This was inspired by the research that we did. It's 2 years ago now, I think, when we did a commentary for the film Sex of Angels, which, I mean, could you just, for anyone who hasn't seen it, how would you describe the plot of Sex of Angels, Rod?
I would describe it as a story about a trio of teenage young girls who you would call it a kind of coming of age story, in which these 3, I would say, overprivileged young women take it upon themselves to venture off on a boat to hopefully safely experiment with a hallucinogen, and bad things happen. Yeah,
and they kidnap a guy to take with them.
Maybe it's sort of it's a half and half kidnapping. He's not too unhappy with being the only guy on a boat with 3 gorgeous women. So
really interesting film, actually. I know we both enjoyed talking about that on the commentary. But as part of my research for that, I was digging around and looking for other Italian films about LSD. Because obviously if there's one, there's going to be more than one, right? That's how the Italian film industry works.
Yes.
And there was a particular flurry because of everything that was going on, particularly in American popular culture, about LSD and the Beatles and the whole just psychedelic era that was suddenly happening in 1967 and 68. And LSD, up until 1967, was legally available, and you could get it from chemists, I think, or doctors could prescribe it. Psychiatrists were prescribing it. Famously, Cary Grant took LSD as part of his psychotherapy sessions. And so it was only in 1967 that it was made illegal, but by which point, loads of people had tried it and written songs and made movies about it. And famously, Roger Corman was making a movie, The Trip, around this sort of time. And so I identified 3 films that all feature LSD as a major part of the plot. And I thought it would be fun to just talk about them. They're all pretty obscure. As far as I can tell, none of them are commercially available. So that's basically our MO. But you never know. We might, as has happened with other films we've covered, it might turn out to be released on Blu-ray in the next couple of years.
Well, fingers crossed, as always.
Yeah. I just got my Blu-ray. I finally got my Severin sale and got my 2020 Texas Gladiators.
Ah, yes.
So you never know.
That one's on UHD. That's a 4K, which is terrifying.
So you never know what might happen. But anyway, so we're starting off with a film that... what I like about these 3 movies, actually, they're all very different genres. And this one is a Euro spy movie, basically. And it has a number of titles. But in Italy, it is LSD, Inferno, pochi, dollari, which is hell for a few dollars. Which I think they've used that title because I found some advertising for one of the other films that we're going to do, which was called LSD Heaven for $5. So I think that's why this one is called Hell for a Few Dollars. And of course, it also ties in with the idea of being for a few dollars more and so on and so on. Anyway, so yeah, LSD, Inferno per pochi, dollari, also known as LSD, Flesh of the Devil. And it has got a suitably groovy Euro spy theme. Here it is.
Gente io cercherò perché tra tanti fiori blu.
So the music there is that most of the people involved in this film, I have to admit, are people I've never heard of.
Yes.
And the composer is no different. E.C.H.O. Machi, I think is probably how you don't pronounce it, who actually has over 100 credits. Although possibly some of that is where the music has just been reused in other things. Mainly Italian television and things I have never heard of. And
yeah, I have to admit, I looked through his long list of credits, and there were a few that looked like things I might have seen, but none of them that stuck. Like Avenger of the Seven Seas or Women of Devil's Island, but everything else seems very much like something that I have not seen, other than I do believe the film Banditos is something I own, but have not watched yet.
Oh, I've got a few of those too.
You do? You some films that you haven't seen yet?
I know, it's crazy, right? Yeah, so, but anyway, it's quite a groovy theme. And yeah, so Rod, was this, you've got much more experience with Euro spy films than me. Was this a film you had seen before?
No. And I will admit that it be the most common English title starting with LSD would probably have put me off of it, to be blunt. Because in general, if I spot a film from the 60s that revolves around LSD, I assume we're going to spend a not inconsiderable portion of the running time with the camera being spun in a circle while different colors flash at the lens, which has a tendency to, how should I put this, peeve me, because, nothing's happening then. So I wish you could just get on with things.
You're going to love the next two movies.
Yes, that might be that might be forewarned as forearmed in everyone's case as far as future examples of this kind of cinema, yes.
But there's actually only, and we'll get to it, there's only two trip scenes in this film. Oh, actually, no, I tell a lie. There's technically three, I suppose.
Yeah, sort of.
So it's mainly Guy Madison running around being a spy for some kind of, we're not entirely sure who, some secret organization.
Yeah, it never specifies the name of the organization or even its nationality, which I think was odd.
Now, I should mention, so this film, I've looked everywhere. The best I could find was a VHS copy, which presumably is from some kind of TV broadcast in Italy, and also a VHS copy that was released in Greece with so the Greek VHS had an English soundtrack. So there was an English soundtrack created for this film, but the picture quality of that particular copy that's online is terrible.
Yeah.
So the Italian one is a bit better. So I tried to sync up the English soundtrack to the Italian version. And that's when I discovered that the English cut is different. So this was a similar thing with Sex of Angels, where it's been edited slightly differently. So the soundtracks would not match up at all. So the best I could do was use AI to create subtitles for the Italian version. And I don't know what about you, but actually they were pretty good. They were not too bad this time.
Actually, I have to admit, I had to watch the English language dub be able to completely decipher what the AI subtitles were talking about most of the time.
Oh, fair enough. I found they weren't too bad compared with other ones I've tried. Though there were some names that really confused the AI. There's a character called Jimmy Joglu, and they just keep saying Jimmy Joglu, and AI didn't know what the hell that was all, was all about.
I mean, we're not AI, and we have trouble with it ourselves.
And there's a character called Sheila that it got confused about as well, which was quite funny, and Corey. And also the evil organization is called E.C.H.O, which
we're never given any explanation for what that might be an acronym for.
Yeah, it's an acronym like Spectre, but yeah, we don't know what it is. And the AI was confused by that too, because echo is also an Italian word meaning like here, something like that. So anyway, it was a bit confusing, but generally speaking, it wasn't too bad. But yeah, it's a shame because again, as we always say, it would be great to be able to see better quality copies of these movies. But anyway, before we dig into the plot such as it is, as I mentioned, most of the people involved in this film I'd never heard of before, and that's been starting with the director, Massimo Mida, credited. They clearly thought this film was going to, I guess because it was all about LSD, I assumed they were going to try and release it in America. So he goes by the name of Mike Middleton.
Yes.
Although it turns out that Massimo Mida is also not his full name. His real name is Massimo Puccini. But that's about the only information biographical information I can find out. There's very little about this director online. He started out his career actually in Italian neorealism. He was was he assistant director, I think,
and screenwriter. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a second unit director on Paisan, which is a classic of the post-war Italian neorealist school. And then basically went on to become a director and a writer and made films that, again, I've basically never heard of any of them, apart from this one. He was involved in one of those films. They were quite popular in the mid-60s where they'd have 3 or 4 different directors all doing a segment.
Yeah.
And he did one called Love in 4 Dimensions, which sounds fun, but that's the only one I think I'd vaguely heard of. But other than that, not a clue. How about you?
No, I can't. I went through his filmography, could not pinpoint another film before or after this that I had ever seen. So this is my first example of him as a director. Doesn't surprise me that I don't know too much of his filmography. It does look like he was better thought of as a scripter than a director, and that seems to play out if you look at his credits.
Yeah, it looks like his last credit was a writer anyway, it's a TV show called I Ragazzi di Celluloid, which translates, I guess, as the children of film, the children of celluloid, or the boys of celluloid, the guys of celluloid. Ragazzi can translate in a few different ways.
Don't know.
But that's like some sort of TV show about cinema, I guess. Yeah, so very unknown. Didn't even appear to do any other Eurospy films.
No.
There's a film with an interesting title that looks like it's about student activism called La Donna a una dimensione, which is like the one-dimensional woman, I think.
Yeah.
So loads of interesting sounding stuff, but yeah, nothing that has really ever cropped up before. So I guess maybe the only name that might be familiar is Guy Madison. Was he an actor that you were aware of?
Oh yeah, having seen him in a number of films over the year. I mean, over the years, I've seen him. He's got a fairly memorable face. He's another one of those Americans who had a fair career in Hollywood, and then at a certain point reached a spot where he decided to do what so many mid-range or not as successful actors in America were doing, which was to try their hand at starring in European productions. Started off doing a few things like Slave of Rome and things of that nature. He had kind of, I think that you can if you follow his career, it does seem that he was getting to the point where the what he was able to get in America were things like guest shots on various television series, and then suddenly he's starring in movies in Europe, and it's pretty easy to understand why you make that move.
It's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, isn't it? It's exactly that.
It becomes that thing where you're suddenly seeing him in a number of films, and I knew him from I've seen him in things like Executioner of Venice, which is a pretty entertaining film. Old Shatterhand, he has a significant role in that film.
Yeah, because he appears to have done some German westerns, isn't Shatterhand German? Yeah.
He was in. He played the same character in a couple of the Sandokan films in the mid '60s, and then several spaghetti westerns, Five for Revenge, and things like that. But also some films that are a little more interesting, like Mystery of Thug Island and the Tortuga Adventure, which is another rapiers and ruffles kinds of story, but then back to spaghetti westerns pretty quickly. He did have a role in Super-Argo and the Faceless Giants, which is where you and I most recently saw him.
Yes, so we've seen him before. But
other than that, it's not until you get to things like Reverend's Cult in 1970 where I've seen him as in other things as well. But like I say, he's a solid American actor who came to Europe and was able to, for about a decade or more, become a leading man, and that's primarily what he's going to be remembered for these days. If anybody looks back at his career,
he's in Blood of the Warriors, which is a Peplum film. I think I've got. I think Blood of the Warriors popped up in my PhD. I might have a press book for that. It sounds familiar, somewhere buried in my collection. Yeah, and then he went back to Hollywood and was in One Ton Ton, the dog who saved Hollywood.
Well, the less said about that film, the better. But it's another one of the dozen or more cameos in that particular film. So it's not as if he had a starring role. I doubt he even had dialogue.
He's credited in something which sounds weird called Lusty Brawlers in 1970. But the IMDb has absolutely nothing except that it's Italian and he's in it. Not even a director or anything.
Makes me wonder if it actually exists.
Yeah, maybe it was mentioned in an interview and someone's put it on here and it
I don't know.
Doesn't exist. Anyway, but his character in this film is weird.
Oh, that's a mirror image of the film itself. I mean, this is a pretty typical. Let's stipulate.
Okay.
I absolutely love the Eurospy genre. I do, but
not this one.
There were so many of them pumped out in such a short space of time that one of the enduring flaws, if not enduring. If not endearing, at least enduring, is that they often feel as if there was 4 pages of script, and there's like 2 plot points stretched out over 85 minutes. And this is one of those films where it's hard to know whether or not they had a full plot line in mind, or they didn't, and they were just filming things. There comes a point in about an hour into the movie where we are suddenly told what's going on, and up until then, it's been a kind of I have no clue where this thing is going kind of movie. And that's okay as long as the film can maintain your interest. That's fine. But I would be curious, Adrian. Did you find the tone of this film to be all over the place?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Good.
Well, yes.
I did
we'll get to the plot summary, but the tone is weird right from the pre-credit sequence.
Yeah.
It's really odd.
It's hard to know if what we're seeing is a spoof, a comedy, or something to be taken seriously, and the film doesn't at times seem to know either.
No. Absolutely. There's very few members of the cast who I was aware of particularly. I did want to mention Luciano Rossi, who plays Stannis, who is Jimmy Joglu's sidekick. Mm-hmm. And he is somebody we will have seen. He's been in so many films, many of which people listening will have seen. I mean, things like Contraband, City of the Living Dead. He's in Salon Kitty, Violent Rome, just tons and tons of Death Smiles and a Murderer, loads of westerns. He's one of those. He's even in Django, and one of those guys who, like many of these people did, just kind of runs through Italian genre cinema.
He really has a face that seems to be perfect for spaghetti westerns, to be blunt.
Yeah. He's not given a lot to do in this film, but he does it well. Yeah, I mean, was there anyone else in the cast that you'd heard of or seen before or looked familiar? Because apart from one.
Well, I'd seen a couple of them in other films, but nothing that really stood out. I did get a little fascinated by the main female lead, Franca Polesio.
Oh yes,
because one, she's very pretty, and also she's the only character that turns out to not be what we are expecting. So that was nice.
Yeah, and she was in Tarzana, the Wild Woman.
We have seen her before.
So we've seen her before, which is nice.
She's also in a very bad Robin Hood movie from 1970.
The Invincible Archer.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've seen it.
Surely there's no such thing as a bad Robin Hood film, is there?
You know, you would have thought so up until the Italians put their hand into the mix, and then suddenly there were some.
We're going to do a Robin Hood mini-season at some point, I'm sure of it.
Oh, I would hope so. And at that point, I will be resubjected to the Invisible Archer or the Invincible Archer, and we will. It has multiple titles, and you will see what I mean.
Fair enough. I just wanted to quickly shout out Lucia Modugno again. This is the third time she's popped up lately. Mm-hmm. We saw her in Danger Diabolic, and then we just saw her in what was it called, Miss Stiletto?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Where she was the lesbian assassin. So I was pleased that she was in this film because obviously I've talked about her before because she was the star of Norman J. Warren's first movie, and we tried to track her down. She's still alive. She's in her 90s now, and when we were writing the book, she was kind of unavailable. And I've been, the best we managed was that she'd written an autobiography in Italian, and we got permission to use extracts where she does talk about filming her private hell. And I was friends with her cousin on Facebook, so that's how I managed to get something to her. But anyway, I was Googling around thinking, she must have done an interview somewhere, something. And it appeared that about 4 years ago, what's his name? Federico Cadeo, is it? Who does the Freakorama Blu-ray extras. He tracked her down and interviewed her for the Arrow Blu-ray of My Name is Pecos.
Ah.
And so I watched that, and it's brilliant to see. She talks for 20 minutes. It's the first time I've seen her being interviewed, and obviously first time I've seen her as she looks now. And it was really interesting. So she doesn't mention LSD, sadly, but she does talk mainly about her westerns because it's a Western Blu-ray. But then she talked for a good 5 minutes of the interview about her private hell. And so I really wished that I'd been able to see this interview before the book came out. It was too late, I think. By the time this Blu-ray came out, the book was out.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of extra to the story that wasn't in her autobiography that we could have used in the book, but never mind.
Well, possible a revised edition somewhere down the road.
Well, yeah, we've still got to sell all these ones first.
Fair point.
If anyone's listening who hasn't bought my Norman J. Warren book yet, you will love it.
Give them the title, Adrian.
It's called Norman J. Warren, Gentleman of Terror.
There we go.
And it is an oral history where we tracked down and interviewed loads of people, as well as Norman himself. It's quite good, I think. I'm quite pleased with it. and it is readily available in various places. If you're in America, Vinegar Syndrome have it. You can get it from them. Anyway, that's enough of a plug. But yeah, so that interview, it's on the My Name is Pecos, which is in the box set called, what's it called? Vengeance Trails, the Arrow spaghetti western set. So definitely worth checking out. But yeah, she retired in the 70s. I assume it's because she got married and had children. Although,
that's
again,
what I've
very
read,
little.
yes.
Yeah, I haven't been able to find that much out about her. But then she came back to acting in the last 10 years or so. So she's been doing stuff on Italian television. And she has quite a fun scene in this movie. She is the first character to take LSD in the film, so we'll get to that. Or in fact, should we just get to that now? Should we get to the plot? I don't know. There's no one.
Why not?
There's no one else worth mentioning, I don't think.
Well, I mean, there could be, but quite honestly, this is a weird film. So
yeah,
we should probably talk about how weird this film is.
Yes, we should. So I've been unable to track down any contemporary reviews. I couldn't find any evidence that it was released in America. As far as I can tell, it was never released in the UK either. So, and I looked and I couldn't find any Italian reviews. There might be some in Greece, perhaps, for the VHS, but I've not been able to find any kind of contemporary reviews at all. But I have found a blog that reviewed it. So I've got a plot summary that we can use.
Okay.
From the blog, Die Danger, Die Kill, and I think it's it's good, quite helpful to use this plot summary because there were things. If I'd have tried to summarize it just based on my own viewing, I don't think I could have. Yeah,
it would have. I tend to try to take some brief notes if I've not seen trying to get a flow, an idea, and it was kind of difficult.
Yeah,
I didn't know how romantic things were going to be because it starts off with a kind of it's odd.
So the opening, there's a pre-credit sequence, which I assume is in the true James Bond tradition, where we get a little bit of action before the credits, but it's really weird.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell the listeners what happens pre-credits?
Okay. This would have to have been at least 30 years or 25 to 30 years prior to the body of the rest of the story taking place in the late 60s. And
it's like an origin story.
Yeah, it's not labeled as such, but it clearly is meant to be an origin story for our main character, Rex Miller. We see some kind of stereotypical fedora-wearing gangsters walking down a street, seeming to be escorting a young school-aged girl down the street when a toy car comes up to them. Two of them become suspicious, go over to it. The car explodes, or at least expels smoke, and this kills them. And then the kid who's been directing this particular motorized toy then blow darts the third fedora wearing gangster looking guy, killing him. And this is our introduction to the childhood version of Rex Miller.
The girl says to him,
the young girl that he intends to be a secret agent when he grows up.
Yeah, and it's odd. There's an odd thing.
It's very. We're not supposed to be taking this seriously. It's that kind of opening. It's kind of opening for a comedic Eurospy film.
I suppose we're supposed to imagine, was James Bond similarly blowing people up with his toy cars when he was a kid? Yeah.
And of course the answer would be no.
Where it starts. Yeah, so Rex Miller is clearly a disturbed child who grows up to join some kind of secret agency, but again, we're not entirely clear. We know we're probably in Italy or possibly the Riviera at the beginning. There's a whole sequence of water skiing, which was quite a popular thing to do in the 60s, it seems, especially for opening credits. I've been watching recently, what's it called? The Persuaders from 1970. And there seems to be a lot of water skiing in that. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I assumed that all adults at some point in their lives went water skiing.
Well, I can remember my parents water skiing with friends, and I can also remember as a youngster going, I am never doing that. So
Yeah, I mean, it looks terrifying. I've never done it.
yeah.
But in the movies, they're always doing it. And he's water skiing at the beginning. But yeah, so then, okay, let's get into the plot. So let's see if I'll read this and we can interject where we want to. So there is a secret agent called Sheila. She is in the pursuit of a jewelry dealer called Corey, who is acting as some kind of drug courier for a crime lord named Corber.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's right. So aiding Sheila is her partner, secret agent Rex Miller, who's watching this. There's a kind of car chase, and he's watching the whole thing through a periscope inside a tanker truck.
Yes.
And then a sniper takes Corey out, and the car crashes, and Miller retrieves the drug-filled briefcase before the car explodes. And
Now,
then it says,
wait a moment.
Oh, is that wrong?
Isn't the person operating the periscope, isn't it more than just a periscope? It's also, isn't he the one who does the assassination?
Yeah, I think that's like the
Yeah.
gun periscope, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, as it says here, then he and Sheila go back to their hotel room and screw because, hey, this is an Italian spy movie from the 60s. What do you want?
Mm-hmm. Fair
So
enough.
him and Sheila are friends. And
Or at least friendly.
yeah, but then Sheila gets killed, doesn't she? She is assassinated. She's spying on somebody.
Yeah.
Who then kills her, I think.
Yeah, she's at an airport where she is using the camera that we see her exit the hotel room with after her assignation with Rex Miller. We see her with the camera taking photos of something or someone there, and then she is killed as well. Of course, this in a normal movie would position Rex Miller to be on the vengeance trail. It's hard to know if that's what's going on with him as the rest of the film progresses, though.
Yeah. So yeah, he takes over the role of Corey so that he can pass himself off as this smuggler to Corber, who clearly doesn't know what Corey looks like. I guess I assume Corey doesn't know what he looks like. And Corber is working for a bigger smuggling operation led by a Mr. X. So this is our second Mr. X in the last couple of months.
True.
But this Mr. X is some kind of supervillain. He's the guy who's involved with E.C.H.O. Oh, this is so confusing already. Because Miller is tasked with getting involved by whatever secret organization he's working for, and this is where they screen a film, and they talk to him about what LSD is, and they tell him some things that aren't true about LSD.
A number of things that aren't true.
So they sit and there's like a briefing sequence, which is obviously what happens at the beginning of every James Bond film. And they show him some secret military footage. And it's basically MK Ultra footage of soldiers, presumably American soldiers, who have been dosed and then filmed. And this is stuff that really did happen. The American military experimented on their troops with LSD called MK Ultra. It's quite well documented, quite interesting, and that footage is real and you can find it if you want to watch it. But they've recreated the footage here and just filmed a load of Italian guys in American military uniforms pretending to be freaking out, and some of them are stood still like statues, and some of them are hugging each other, some of them are crying.
Some are praying, some are flailing about like someone lit their pants on fire. It's very strange.
And one of the guys watching the film says, "Oh, no wonder they call it the flesh of the devil." And then one of the guys says, "Yes, that's what the Mexicans call it." And that's just not true to start with. LSD was called God's flesh, not the devil's flesh. So that's the first thing wrong.
But Adrian, if we're trying to present LSD as some demonic chemical influence on the youth.
And that's when they tell us that it's actually Mexicans extract it from mushrooms.
Really?
Yeah, that's how you make LSD apparently.
That's not true.
No. And they talk about how if it gets into a water supply, like you only need, how much was it they said? Like basically
an infinitesimal amount. Yeah.
A small bottle, and you could dose the whole country. That's how LSD is going to be used to take over the world, and that's why they've got to go out and stop this gang of this E.C.H.O who are going to destroy the world with LSD, apparently. I mean, I don't know how much LSD you'd have to put in the water to drug an entire population, but I'm imagining it's probably quite a lot.
Yeah. I mean, the what would be? I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a tried and true plot idea for, evil scumbags attempting to take over a large section of a country or even an entire country, which is to, in one way or another, poison the water supply. Okay. But the thing put forth here, first of all, so, if you dosed an entire population with LSD, it would just be an interesting day or two where nothing would happen. Nothing would get done. There might be some accidents. There'd probably be some definite, some car collisions depending on when one individual versus another peaked on their particular trips. But at the same time, this is not a film that is trucking in a reality-based version of the world around us. That does not stop it from being wildly strange, regardless, because and stop me if I'm reading this incorrectly. I want you to tell me. But does it seem to you that the upshot of the bad guy's plan is to avoid the use of a chemical such as this to bring people together in some kind of harmony? In other words, what the villains attempting to do is to make sure that people don't agree and don't find ways to get along through, I don't know, consciousness expansion. It's not that the film makes it super difficult. I mean, here I'm bad guy, here I'm good guy, vaguely enough. I mean, we've got our main character. Clearly he's meant to be the good guy. But aren't the bad guys, isn't E.C.H.O essentially, regardless of their methods, aren't the goals that they have set for them a little bit more interesting rather than just maintaining the current world order? I'm a little fuzzy, as with so many Eurospy films. This is a lot of Eurospy film downfall, is that I'm not positive I understand the world-shaking plot.
Yeah, there are lots of things about this film that I didn't quite understand. Another one is that all the way through, he pretends that he doesn't smoke.
By breaking cigarettes, yes.
Yeah, and then at the end he does smoke. And I was like, well, what was the point? What did that add? Was that maybe just to give him some character? I don't know. It didn't add anything to anything.
Well, I mean, and if it was supposed to be some kind of, semi-post-coital joke in that he would only smoke once he'd completed the mission, then say something about it. Maybe bring that up.
That makes sense. So he heads off to Corba's gang, pretending to be this dealer, and he's got this load of LSD in his case. And so this is where we meet Lucia Modugno, who is, I'm not sure exactly why she's there, but she's a member of the gang or like the girlfriend of Corba.
I thought she was like the girlfriend, yeah.
Well, if she's his girlfriend, they don't seem to mind killing her off pretty quickly. So they,
easy come, easy go.
Yeah, they want to test that it's good stuff, this LSD that he's brought, before they'll trust him. So they trick her into drinking some.
Well, yeah, but you're skipping over one of my favorite stupid moments, which is when Guy Madison in disguise, or not disguise, but hands over the substance, the LSD. This fellow puts it in his hand, and it's in little white pill form, he says something to the effect of, "Oh yeah, it looks like good stuff," and it's like, how do you know? It could be aspirin. I mean, what in the hell?
I also missed the bit where this is how we know it's a spy movie, because his secret organization implant a radio in his neck.
Ah, yes. With
Which is,
some
again,
realistic,
Yeah.
maybe real surgical footage.
Yeah, it's really weird.
What
And
was
like
that?
it leaves a scar on his neck.
Mhm.
That's not very good if you're putting somebody undercover. How did you get that scar on your neck? Oh,
Well, I mean, you can explain away a
yeah,
scar
I
easily
suppose,
enough. It's what I find
just kind of
interesting
draws
is that
attention.
it's a subcutaneous microphone that makes it possible for people miles away to hear everything in the room. It's like, we don't have that shit today. We don't have
Yeah.
that kind of technology today.
Yeah, it's broadcasting him like in a 200-mile radius.
I know. I'm thinking, man, this is impressive.
There's also the bad guys are using this star as their symbol, and the secret agents work out somehow by making the star the right size to fit on a map. It touches 5 places in Europe, like Istanbul, Cairo, I forget where else. But I was thinking, how do you know what size the map is supposed to be? Or like, where's
Yes.
your information on the scale
And,
for this to work?
And couldn't we like pick another place in the world and plop this down and do the same thing? I mean,
Yeah, you could stick it anywhere. But that's how they work out that the bad guys must be in Sicily.
yes. It's not because that's where we're shooting, but it's
Yeah.
just because of this incredibly interesting clue.
So then the rest of the film is in Sicily, and that's where they go. We also get there's a lot of car chases that are not particularly exciting, but clearly we're just filling some running time.
Yeah, and they don't seem to really serve any purpose at all.
No, that's why I can't remember where they fit in, and the plot summary here doesn't even mention them.
Because they don't matter.
No bearing on the plot at all. So anyway, he gets accepted by... Oh, wait, no. So Lucia Medunia, yes, she's taken this dose of LSD. And this is where we get into our first trip sequence. And LSD, because, I mean, this is an Italian film, and obviously they want to show LSD to be a bad thing. So she's seen laughing and having fun, but then it quickly gets quite scary. And the way they show this is the lights flash a little bit, and people's heads turn into animal heads.
I know.
Or flowers.
Very strange.
But really bad animal heads, like cheap mask animal heads.
Yeah, like low budget Disney special effects.
Yeah.
levels.
And then she does the classic thing of throwing herself out of a window. And then never gets mentioned again. If she was anybody's girlfriend, they don't seem that bothered.
No. She's clearly considered disposable.
And that's the end of Lucia Medunia. Bless her. But at least she got to leave the set and then hop on a plane and fly to London, where she got the starring role for the only time in her whole career, in Her Private Hell, where she got to be in pretty much every scene. So she got a lot more to do. But anyway, so she's dead, but that means they know the drugs are good. In the meantime, Miller has been introduced to, what's her name? Virginia, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She's a chemist who works for Korber, and they become friends pretty quick, even though she smokes and he doesn't.
Yeah, and like I say, she's quite a good addition to the cast. I like the idea that she's able to take the sidelong insults that Rex Miller tosses out, which is, well, I would have expected someone like you to be hideous. Well, he doesn't say hideous. He's to have short hair and da 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 da. And it's just like,
Yeah,
dude, don't
yeah,
look a gift horse in the mouth. What's wrong with you?
yeah. But they get it on pretty quickly, it
Of course.
seems. And then, yeah, sort of stuff happens, and he learns more about the operation that's going on. Korber kind of trusts him. And then they keep talking about Jimmy Joglu, who finally turns up. And Jimmy Joglu has an interesting way of smuggling his LSD. Do you want to describe how he does that? Do you remember how he does that?
You've caught me unaware. I can't remember.
He has a yacht. And on the yacht,
that's right.
he has a sunbathing beauty.
Yes, he does.
And so So Rex, because Rex is trying to keep Corbett on side, he sneaks onto the yacht and puts her to sleep. Because as we learn, he's very good with a blow dart. And he kind of blow darts this sleeping pill into her drink. So
Which
that
is
he can take...
I don't want to... I don't want to be this picky, but from that angle, no.
But it gives him the opportunity to take her bikini top off.
It's true.
Although they very demurely keep that off screen.
I think they had to, depending on where they wanted it to be.
Yeah, but also because the picture quality is a bit fuzzy, I didn't know what he was doing.
And it's kind of cropped, at least from what I can see, it's kind of cropped below the bottom of the image. It's strange.
Yeah, because he knew the way that he learns that she's been smuggling these in her bikini is told in secret. So I think the audience, we don't know where it is. So he just goes off to get it. And we're left thinking, what is he doing to her bikini? Why is he taking her bikini off?
Why is he doing this?
And then he comes back with two, padded, they look like the things you get in, I don't know what they're called because I don't wear bras, but whatever you put in there to make your boobs look bigger, he's got a couple of those in his pocket, basically. And it doesn't, it's very confusing. But anyway, his cover gets blown. I don't know how much more we want to say. There's a big shootout.
Yes, this is true. There is a big shootout.
And there's a kind of a twist at the end. I don't know do we want to mention the twist or should we let people find out for themselves?
Let's just say there's another LSD sequence. There's that.
Oh yeah, there's that as well.
Oh, that's not the twist you were thinking of? I was okay.
No.
You're thinking of the information we find out about Virginia. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Just in case anybody is curious enough to go and track this down, I mean, it is on YouTube. So I don't want to spoil it entirely because that's maybe the most interesting bit. Although again, it makes you kind of think, what? Why? What? Doesn't make any sense.
I've been trying to come up with a term for these types of films. It's the kind of film that either you must pay incredibly strict attention to follow, or it's the kind of film that no matter how much attention you pay, it will not make sense regardless. And this one, I've tried, I've doped out what happens in the film by paying strict attention, but so much of it is still fuzzy that it does seem to fall into into that category I was speaking of earlier about a film that seems to have too few pages in the script.
Yeah. It does feel, I mean, who knows as well with whatever cut this is, which is clearly a VHS copy or a TV broadcast or something. Who knows whether stuff has been cut out, and maybe the original movie in 1967 was brilliant and made loads of sense.
and was not tonally deficient in strange ways.
Maybe. Yeah, so this is a weird one, which I suppose, it is about LSD, so...
I was about to say, aren't we going to say that about all the films that we discuss in this little mini-season?
Well, yeah, possibly. The only other review that I found, I have a book, it's 2 books, 2 volumes, The International Spy Film Guide by Richard Rhys Davis. And these books are really nice. They are now out of print and worth loads of money online, but luckily I got them when they were in print. But the downside is he's done a little mini review of every spy film ever made, pretty much. So there's about 1,000 pages across the 2 books. But what that does mean is that each one is only quite short. So the review for this film just says, cheap and potty acid spy film with Guy Madison trying to avert mass spiking of the nation with LSD while tripping out himself. Appalling but hilarious. 5 out of 10. I think that's about where I would put it.
Well, Matt Blake has a write-up of it in the Eurospy Guide.
Oh, good. I don't have that book, so.
Oh well, yeah. I will cut to the chase with what Mr. Blake has to say here. He says, well, actually, this review was written by his co-author David Deal. So,
okay.
I'll cut to this. He says, this low-budget film has lots of low-budget gadgets and such. Rex talks into a book and, rather unconvincingly, a mantle clock like he's actually sending messages. In one scene, he plugs an earphone into a lamp and amazingly can hear everything going on in the next room.
That's true.
Virginia uses only a lipstick communicator, but Rex's snorkel tube converts to a blowgun. That's how he somehow manages to spit the sleeping pill.
I didn't even know. They must be looking at a better quality picture than I was, because I couldn't tell that.
One of the bad guys has electrified bars that enclose his living room when required, and a statue that breathes fire in one of the better sequences. Rex has there's a briefcase that shoots something deadly and makes a funny noise. Rex has a transmitter implanted in his neck before he infiltrates the gang. Best line in the film is spoken by Mr. X as he describes his international crime syndicate. Quote, "We're a secret organization with a strange name. Echo." Unquote.
Yeah.
And I will say this, he does say, finally, the film boasts an excellent soundtrack. There are plenty of catchy tunes and thrilling motifs for spy music fans that easily outclass the visuals.
I think that's very reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes it sound better than it is, I think.
Well, I would agree that if a much better looking, spanking clean, bright and cheery, sharp version of this were available, it might be considered a better film by both of us. But
yeah, absolutely,
without a doubt, the one thing that I come away from this film that gets a complete thumbs up is the score. I do love the music.
Yeah, the music's great. Yeah, it is a shame that the picture quality is so ropey, because half of those gadgets that are mentioned in that list there, you can't even see properly what they're doing. I didn't realise her lipstick was a transmitter for a start. I must have missed that.
It's there. She's holding up what looks to be like her compact, a mirror away from her, as if it's the transmitter, and she's speaking into the lipstick. Yeah.
Oh, is she? Okay. Oh dear. Yeah, I missed that too. Yeah, maybe that's because my own drugs were kicking in, and I was just.
Yes, you were peaking. You were fine.
Yeah. Oh man, there we go. Well, that's LSD, Flesh of the Devil. An interesting, slightly weird start.
Yes.
But I think kind of indicative of what they were trying to do. And obviously just, we want to talk about LSD because everyone's talking about LSD these days, but we also want to stick to what we know. So let's make it a spy film. And they kind of succeeded, I think.
It is a typical middle of the road at best Euro spy film, and the LSD element of it is at times intentionally ridiculous. Yeah. So as a MacGuffin, it serves its purpose. They could have switched out any particular illicit substance at all, and it would have been the same story, just without those sequences where people are tripping. So
I mean, this is the kind of thing that if they'd made this in the 50s, it would have been about the evils of marijuana
or heroin.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Now the film does also have an amazing poster. Like the artwork is great.
Yes, I agree.
This is a poster I would love to have on my wall, but I think because it's LSD on the poster has become a kind of collectible piece of art. So despite the fact that no one's ever seen the movie, the poster is really popular. So you can't pick one of those up for cheap, sadly. But yeah, so it's, I don't know, I don't think this film would really have had much appeal if it had, let's say it had come out in cinemas, maybe it played on 42nd Street in New York. People would have probably gone to see it because of the title, but then been very disappointed. Do you think?
I think that it would have, I don't know that it would have brought back much repeat business.
No. Whereas something like The Trip is a masterpiece and kind of gets it right. I'm fairly sure that Massimo Mida didn't take his own trip before making this movie.
No, I do not think that he followed the Corman path.
No. So that's it for LSD, Flesh of the Devil. We have 2 films left. So next time, well, we've got a choice. Do you want to go with the drama, The Sexual Revolution, La Rivoluzione Sessuale, or would you like to watch the documentary kind of Mondo film, Acid, Delirium of the Senses? What do you fancy?
Well, I always like to try to eat my vegetables before dessert. So
Okay, good idea.
Yeah, so now, but the problem is that now from your description, I'm not sure which is the vegetable and which is the dessert.
Well, yeah, let's do the doc then. Let's do Acid, Delirium of the Senses, which is an Italian Mondo film about LSD shot in New York.
Okay.
And is very interesting. The Sexual Revolution is a sort of really weird drama, co-scripted by Dario Argento, actually. So that's actually quite an interesting one to look forward to. But all right, next time we'll be doing Acid. How about that?
There we go. Sure.
There we go. Okay. Well, I think that's pretty much it from us. Do all the normal things, like and subscribe. Subscribe to us on YouTube or any other platform where you listen to the podcast. Tell your friends. Share us on social media. Get in touch with us, which you can do on Twitter. And where else? Instagram. You'll find us on there. We also have an email, which is just wildwildpodcast@gmail.com. A couple of people since our last episode have emailed us. Carl emailed us to say, when is the next season due? I'm going through Wild Wild Podcast withdrawal. So thanks, Carl. Hopefully you've stuck around and you haven't had the shakes too bad.
Hopefully this will put off the shakes and possibly give you a bit of a psychedelic tinge to your day.
Yeah. Dan got in touch to say, Adrian and Rod, just finished watching all 10 Poliziotteschi films and listening to all 11 podcasts.
Ooh.
Thank you so much for introducing me to a genre film that I've never seen before. They were great.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's the kind of thing we hoped we would be able to do, that we're introducing films to people, not just talking about the movies that everybody has already seen before. So that's really cool.
I have to admit that that's something I often lose sight of, which is the idea that because I have known about these films for decades at this point, I sometimes completely forget that anytime you're talking about these movies in a public venue, then there's a good opportunity that you're actually introducing these to other people, and I really do forget that, and it's good to be reminded of that. I'm very glad that has happened. That makes me that puts a smile on my face. I'll put it that way.
Absolutely. Dan also then mentioned the Eurocrime documentary, which is excellent. If anyone's, I'm sure we probably mentioned that at the time, but that's now available on Amazon Prime. So definitely worth checking out. Eurocrime, the Italian cop and gangster films that ruled the 70s.
Great stuff.
And then finally, Dan has been busy. Dan sent me a really funny message, and I think he sent me a photo as well. He says, just listen to your podcast on the Bronx Warriors and found something funny. Tubi has photos of most of the cast on each movie page. Whenever George Eastman is in the movie, the photo is of George Eastman, the founder of Kodak.
Really?
Yeah. He sent me a picture, so I'll tweet that out. Yeah, it's pretty funny. And then he says, love the podcast. The movie was so. I mean, Dan, I might have to fight you.
Bronx Warriors is so.
I love the Bronx Warriors.
I'm willing to tag team with you in the ring on that one. Yeah.
Well, let's hope he can find somebody else then to be on his side. Yeah. So he sent me I think he sent me a screenshot. Yeah, he did. So I'll post that out. It's very funny. But we love getting you getting in touch with us. So thank you, Dan and Carl. Oh, I should also mention, I've been teasing out, I've been trying to set up a store for anybody who might want to have the Wild Wild Podcast logo on a t-shirt. So I finally kind of got one going on Zazzle, which is one of these print your own t-shirt platforms. So I will put a link to that in the show notes if anybody wants to check that out. I've only got a couple of designs so far, so I'm trying to make more, but it's, I'm quite busy, so I haven't done as many as I would like to. But anyway, do check those out. Sir. Oh, dear me. Yeah, I will add some more. And if you've got any suggestions for T-shirt designs, I'm open to offers. I've done one that's got directors' names on, and I put it on Instagram, and I've already had people say, "Oh, what about this director? What about that director?" So might have to be a few.
It's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth thinking about. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. The last thing I want to plug, and then I'm going to shut up, is I forgot to mention this at the beginning. Talking about my book reminded me. So the publisher of my book is Creepy Images, the guys that do the German fanzine, which is really good if anyone's ever got Creepy Images. They have launched a new series of books. So the first volume just came out, and I wanted to plug it because I like them, but also because it's a really good book. And it's called Giallo Movie Posters, Volume 1, 1961 to 1969. And it's really good. They have an amazing archive of posters, and they also have lots of friends who have good film posters too. So the book is just, I'm flicking through it. There's a nice bit of audio for you. Just crammed with posters and text in German and English, and it's really good. I highly recommend it. So you can find that on their website, and I think Diabolic have it in America.
I think so, yes.
I think so. And Fab Press have it in the UK, so worth checking out. But anyway, that's enough from me. Rod, did you have anything you want to plug before we go?
No, got a couple of podcasts that'll be coming out in the next several weeks. Going to talk with someone about a low budget horror entry from the 40s that I have a lot of love for, called Strangler of the Swamp.
Ooh.
And the earlier version of it that was actually made in Germany. It's going to make for an interesting conversation. I've got the next in the Universal films from the 40s series is going to be the next Sherlock Holmes film, Pearl of Death. We're hoping to get to that before the end of the year as well.
Excellent. I love those films.
Our annual Christmas episode this year is going to focus on the original Black Christmas.
Nice.
We've tried to avoid talking about that one because it is kind of the granddaddy of the Christmas / holiday slasher films, and it's an exceptional movie. But we decided it was time to finally talk in depth about that fantastic film. So that's coming up before Christmas time. So that's kind of the vague plan for now.
Yeah, and have you got any more Blu-ray commentary tracks coming out? You always seem to have something.
Nothing that
soon.
I can talk about currently. I know we've got a couple of things on the boil, but nothing specific past. Let's just give the hint, if I haven't already, about an upcoming, not yet released in high definition Nashi werewolf film. How's that?
Ooh, okay. Well, that narrows it down.
Yeah, it kind of does. It's not a whole lot. There's only a handful that haven't quite made that jump yet. So
yeah, that's really good. What a time to be alive, eh?
Truly.
Amazing. Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for sticking with us and coming back for this new season. If you're going to do LSD whilst listening to the podcast, please do that responsibly.
Yes.
We cannot be legally held responsible for anything that might happen.
No. Do not blame us. I don't want to see a solicitor knocking on my door.
I'm sure that makes us safe, right? That's fine.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back again soon. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
I don't think that the psychedelic drugs are drugs at all, in the sense they don't cure any physical illness. They're not drugs like heroin, and they're not drugs even like alcohol. They're instruments which expand consciousness. They speed up the mind. chemicals are the keys which open up and speed up, expand the mind.